for decades, a group of D.C.-based journalists, the White House Correspondents Association, has long dictated which journalists get to ask questions of the President of the United States in these most intimate spaces. Not anymore.
Well, there it is, folks. Not anymore. Did you hear the end part of that? Not anymore. Trump is literally rewriting the way things work in D.C., even in the briefing room. Caroline Levitt saying, you know, the White House Correspondents Association, which is typically staffed by predominantly left-leaning journalists. And, of course, they expect their questions to be asked. And Trump says, you know what? Screw you. We're going to do things differently this time around. And they're going to pick who gets the questions when, not the White House Correspondents Association, a wildly left-leaning organization, which I swear on my life I was a member of, and I got tossed by the Biden administration the minute he won. True story. Anyway, new sheriff in town right from the top. All right, folks, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. This week should be an interesting one. Grab your popcorn because everyone is fighting now. Let's start off with Dan Crenshaw, who became the latest victim of the historically undefeated hot mic. The Texas congressman had some shocking words, to say the least, about our friend Tucker Carlson. Take a listen.
Thank you.
Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot. I haven't met him.
You hear that? Tucker Carlson, he said, I'd effing kill him. Dan Crenshaw, a Republican congressman from Texas, said, I'd effing kill Tucker Carlson. Well, I'm here to report, folks, with 100% certainty that Dan Crenshaw has not assassinated Tucker Carlson yet, because I was texting with Tucker this very morning. Tucker is in the Middle East as we speak, and he sends his love to all of you. We got plenty more to discuss, so as always, let's react. All right, the developing feud between Tucker Carlson and Congressman Dan Crenshaw has the political world on edge. Let's break down what the heck is really going on here. Tucker drew first blood with a rant about Crenshaw's apparent priorities as a congressman. Remember this one?
Why is it that Republican states tend to have the least sincere Republican? Like Dan Crenshaw, apparently still a member of Congress from the state of Texas, who is zero interest in the U.S. border. All his interest is in the Ukrainian border, the Gaza border. You know, how does a guy like that get elected in a supposedly Republican state?
Yeah, Tucker called Crenshaw, I think he called him McCain, Eye Patch McCain. Eye Patch McCain is what he said. I agree with Tucker. Crenshaw seemingly didn't take well to those comments, and while there certainly could be other reasons, the pair clearly don't see eye to eye. Get it? Tucker responded to Crenshaw's hot mic moment with a tweet. He said, quoting, "Why don't you come sit for an interview and we'll see how you do? I'll send you my address." Now, let me just tell you something. Dan Crenshaw will never sit down with Tucker Carlson. It would be a bloodbath. It would be a bloodbath, and Dan's blood would be spilled all over the studio. I will bet you anything it won't happen. And by the way, Dan Crenshaw, very importantly, when asked about this since, that whether he called Tucker Carlson or said he would effing kill him, Crenshaw said, no, I didn't say that. But the fact is, he did say it. He doubled down when he got up, left the hot mic, because the host who was interviewing Dan Crenshaw said he not only said it with the hot mic, he said it to the host a second time. So it's just really interesting how easily these politicians, even Republican politicians here, folks, we're here to hold power accountable. They can't lie to us. I don't care if you're a Republican from Texas. Can't lie to us. He lied. Not good. All right, let's move on to the next brewing war. This one was started by a very lonely, desperate man who craves attention almost like nobody else in this country. Listen.
So let me just say to Megyn Kelly, in my 30-some years as a journalist and my 50-some years as a person of color, go yourself. Okay? I usually don't like to talk about her because she's one of those people, she thrives on it. She has built the second part of whatever of her career.
See, Don, I can sip my coffee too for dramatic effect, right? I can do that too. Donnie boy, what have you done? Of course, he was all worked up about Megyn's farewell tweet To Joy Reid, this one where Meghan tweeted, remember when Joy Reid laughingly mocked white woman tears as pathetic and offensive to her? Well, who's crying now, Joy? Good riddance to the absolute worst person on television, and shame on NBC for letting you go on this long. Meghan is 100% right. Wonder how this one plays out. My money, and I'm a betting guy, is on Megyn Kelly. Speaking of Joy Reid, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to highlight how she's handling her MSNBC farewell. Well, here's a clip of her finally signing off.
Shout out to our amazing readers, our audience. I just love running into y'all in the airport, on these streets, and on social media. I could not love or appreciate you more. Thank you, thank you, thank you for holding us down. Almost 5 years, we are a toddler, and we out in these streets in this world, and we are not going to stop.
Well, that was her somewhat reasonable mainstream sign-off. Of course, she was more comfortable when she had the freedom to really tell us how she really felt, even breaking out the fake tears to drive home her message.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize. And that it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so what I will just say is that in the end, thank you. I am not sorry that I stood up for those things, because those things are of God. And you know, I'm a church girl too, and those are the things that I was taught were of God. And so I'm not sorry. I'm just proud of my show.
Oh, joyless Joy Reid. Really, those tears. There's no this TV. My dear, this happens. You're the most racist, race-baiting, race card playing host on television, bar none. NBC said, you know, enough is enough, and they removed you, and they removed others from NBC. It's what happens. They own the network. They can do what they want. They realized that the race baiting didn't work. MSNBC's ratings are sliding. Joy Reid's ratings were getting crushed across the board. Joe Scarborough getting crushed. He may be next. Who knows? Don't cry about it. I don't know. There's a podcast for you and Jim Acosta somewhere and Don Lemon. Imagine that podcast. Something I wouldn't want. That'd be torture. You have to listen to those three. But now that Joy Reid will no longer be spewing toxic garbage into the mainstream airways, Sunny Hostin from The View has apparently taken the opportunity to level up her game. Listen to the latest from another media monster whose career is probably maybe on borrowed time as well.
It angers me when people are like, this woke stuff, it's gotta go. That's telling me that you don't care about my lived experience. You don't care about the oppression of the LGBTQ community. You don't care about the oppression of the disabled. You don't care about the oppression of immigrants. You don't care about your fellow neighbor. And that is ungodly. That is not Christian.
All right, Sunny, let me give you a little lesson. I know you're a lawyer, and I've been on The View twice, folks, in fact, and Sunny was the meanest one of them all, even meaner than Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg. Let me tell you something, Sunny. It's not that woke isn't fine for some people. It's when DEI and woke became the reason to hire people and the reason to cancel other people who didn't ascribe to the same values as the woke mob, the cancel culture mob. It became more about identity politics, gender, color of your skin, than about meritocracy, whether you're good or not. I'll do it again, Sunny. Who would you rather have? A pilot in the airplane that you're flying in at 32,000 feet that was hired because of the color of his skin or the gender affirmation they were saying they were? Or the one that was the most skilled at flying the plane? Even better, how about a heart surgeon? Which one do you want, Sonny? I want a heart surgeon that's trans and was hired because she was a he and now she's a she, and they needed a trans quota to fill, not because she was good at repairing your heart. No, that's what it's all about. Put the meritocracy in, and I don't care how you identify or who you sleep with, just make sure you're hired for merit. I think that's what Donald Trump is doing. He's not saying you can't be trans and get hired. He's saying a trans person isn't going to get the job above someone who's really, really qualified for the job. Amy Robach, remember her, Amy? A news anchor over at ABC accidentally dropped a major truth bomb on a hot mic about Jeffrey Epstein. Listen to this.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in it because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton. We had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like, every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal.
So if you remember, Amy got bounced from ABC. Now she says, and I remember this, she said for years she's had the Jeffrey Epstein story, meaning she probably has the client list. We've had the flight logs, but the client list is what everyone wants. I hear Pam Bondi now has it on her desk, waiting to release it. Pam, please release it. We all want to know. But Amy Roback, did she get bounced because she had the Epstein client list? And I'm guessing there's a Clinton or two on there, and I'm pretty damn sure there's a couple of billionaires on there as well that maybe were left-leaning billionaires. Maybe some that even like vaccines. So maybe she got bounced before she could release that. Who knows? I don't know. I think it's time to hear from all of them. This one got me cracking the heck up. This is one of my favorite clips this is my favorite clip of the day. And the guys are great in the control room who got it together, scrambled it for us, because you had to do a little editing, because we can't say bad words on TV, and we can't put the bad words in type so you can read what they're actually saying on TV. So we cleaned it up. The boys cleaned it up for you. Take a listen to Alec Baldwin making some outrageous threats when he was confronted by a Trump impersonator. By the way, that guy did pretty well on the streets of New York, and listen to this.
Well, Alec, if you don't want that pardon for murdering that woman in cold blood, you can call it first degree, you can call it whatever you want, but it was not good. She's looking down on me right now, smiling, happy. Thank you for confronting the man who took me out, who killed me. And that's okay.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
No, you realize, by the way. No, look at me. I want you to look in the eye.
Sure.
You know, you got a camera on me here?
The ring, no, it's the ring.
But you realize my kids live in this building, right? But I want you to know something.
We love the children. We're doing great deals for the children.
So be real careful.
Okay.
If this camera was here, I'd snap your neck in half and break your neck right out. So you know that, don't you?
Okay. All right, Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, ladies and gentlemen, class act. Believe me.
You got to give the impersonator credit for like rolling with the whole thing, staying in character when Alec Baldwin says, I'm going to snap your freaking neck, or he's used the actual word. The funny thing about the Baldwins, Hilaria Baldwin, Alec's newest wife, she always has this Hispanic accent. Turns out she was born and raised in Boston, but she uses, remember when she was on one of the talk shows, she said, oh, how you say cucumber? Remember that? Well, Alec Baldwin needs to go away for many, many reasons, and this is just one of them. And by the way, everyone confronting Alec Baldwin in the streets is probably going to get the same mean SOB. All right, folks, that's it for this block. We have something very special. We have Charlie Kirk coming up in just a couple of minutes. Make sure you stick around, and we will be right back bowling on America's Voice. All right, folks, I wanted to make this show about us. Clearly, we're all about media and holding the media accountable because they're all messed up and they're all left-leaning nut jobs. But the show is generally about the media and how they treat Trump differently than they treat their own, the left-leaning media. But in the meantime, I want to bring you behind-the-scenes stuff in the show, and that's why I want to go to the control room again. We're going to bring the control room in, this time with some audio. So we have MD there on the microphone. MD is the one who's putting together the show. They all do. All the boys put the show together, and they're making these graphics. For example, that little UFC cage that rolled right before the commercial took hours to make. It takes hours to render a graphic like that. It's just incredible what they're doing. Yeah, that one right there. That like hours to make, just like that. And we're going to sprinkle that stuff throughout the show. But I wanted to give you a little bit of sense. So, MD, thank you guys for that. So we got about 8 minutes for this monologue, I guess, right?
You got it, Eric.
Thank you. Now let's call it with Another little side story. That's called the voice of God in television for whatever reason. It's called the voice of God and usually comes in over here. But we were rehearsing that a little bit right there, and MD said the first time, he's like, go to break. I was like, no, MD, you don't sound like God. It's just called the voice of God. So it's a work in progress, but we're on it, folks. We're on it. Good job, MD. All right, folks, we are in the fight of our lives. That's not an exaggeration, not at all. That's not even hyperbole. This isn't me trying to scare you. We're in the fight of our lives. And this isn't like Al Gore saying in 2009, by the way, over 15 years ago, mind you, that the polar ice caps would be gone in 5 to 7 years.
There is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, okay, Al. Or John Kerry, also in 2009, saying that in 5 years, 2014, we're doomed because melting ice and stuff.
In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic summer. That exposes more ocean to sunlight. Ocean is dark. It consumes more of the heat from the sunlight, which then accelerates the rate of the melting.
So yeah, we're in the fight of our lives. And this isn't fear-mongering like Al or John that we're going for right now. There are federal workers in the FBI, in the CIA, and in the IRS who are actively working against Americans. We're actually in a fight for our lives, for real. We're fighting for the future of the country. Winning that election was just the tip of the iceberg, a sliver. Confirming those cabinet picks, the start of this fight. What I'm saying is that it continues to be very clear that Democrats are trying to take this country down. They hate America. And their hatred for President Trump has officially far surpassed the tiniest amount that they ever cared about the country they live in to begin with. What do you mean? What do you mean they're wiping records at the FBI? There it is. What do you mean, CNN, when you say that our state secrets may be sold to spite Donald Trump? Is that a threat? Or is that already in the works? What do you mean, Congresswoman Crockett, when you root for other countries against our own?
The fact that I'm rooting for Canada and I'm rooting for Mexico a lot is really wild. But they are really the ones that are speaking truth to power right now. They can see what it is. And they were like, we are not messing with this crazy regime from Mar-a-Lago, and basically calling them thugs.
Jazzy Jazz Crockett, a seated Congresswoman, says she's rooting for Canada and Mexico over America. Texas Congresswoman. Her party, the Democrats, are hanging their hopes on her, that woman, for their future. And she hates her own country. Yep, folks, we are in the fight of our lives right now. Let's get into it. So for weeks, as Elon Musk and Doge have been uncovering the heaps of spending waste and government waste and unnecessary bureaucracy that exists in the deep state, there's only one group of so-called Americans that's unhappy about improving our government and making America and our citizens healthier and wealthier. And that who? Who's that? Democrats. The leftist machine, the deep state. While we watch Doge slash the endless budget sheet lines created only for purposes of either fattening Democrat wallets or to satisfy some socialist agendas, we are happy, Americans are satisfied, and we are celebrating. Much to the left's dismay, Americans are happy about this, and Doge, and Elon. But Democrats, not happy at all. They're fighting it. They're telling lies about the benefits. They're lying about Elon Musk, about President Trump, all in the name of stopping them from cutting these costs for Americans. And if that's not enough to show you how much they hate you, we can go back to them lying about inflation, lying about the border, lying about the crime wave. They don't care about our suffering, all in the name of their hatred of Donald Trump. And they're attacking us as we're trying to save America.
These people are just idiots. I really, I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people because the level of stupidity that they are displaying every single day is frankly embarrassing, not just in Congress, but as America.
That's an actual American congresswoman, much to our deep misfortune. That's a U.S. congresswoman who hates this country. And yet, She represents a chunk of the state of Minnesota. It's a U.S. Congresswoman who would rather there be a Sharia law than our own laws. Someone whose main focus is to help Somalia, the country she comes from, not the country she lives in and represents. That's a Congresswoman, and she wants Americans to stop speaking. But what she hates, and what the entire left hates so much, is that they're finally being exposed. And this is a bombshell report, folks. The House Judiciary is saying that Joe Biden's IRS, listen to this, actually leaked taxpayer information of over 400,000 Americans, including President Trump's information. They reported initially that around 70,000 taxpayers were affected, but it's actually 5 times more than that. And now our new FBI chief is finding out that FBI employees are wiping servers clean. What are you saying here? You see, this kind of corruption, kind of instilled in our 3-letter agencies by the likes of Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden, that just doesn't disappear overnight. That's what I mean when I say we're in the fight of our lives and for our country. President Trump, Elon Musk, the amazing team assembled by the president, including the cabinet members, that's a great start. But think about how far and wide the deep state corruption really is. The leftist machine is already hard at work trying to change the narrative that this kind of treason is President Trump's fault. Listen to this from CNN just yesterday. Quoting, and on the CIA's 7th floor, home to the top leadership, some officers are also quietly discussing how mass firings and the buyouts already offered to staff risk creating a group of disgruntled former employees who might be motivated to take what they know to a foreign intelligence service. Got it. I see there. So this top leadership at the CIA and the FBI, unnamed of course, because it's all a bunch of BS, they're worried that anti-Trump personnel within their ranks could sell our state secrets to a foreign power or adversary. Interesting. I see. So when some employees who hate Trump so much that they would betray their own country, that's Trump's own fault. Make it make sense. It doesn't, and it won't, because it's brought to you by CNN, the same con artists who brought you Russia collusion and Russia disinformation. They really do think Americans are that stupid. There's treason and corruption at the FBI, at the CIA, and the IRS. But somehow it's MAGA's fault. Got it. We're in the fight of our lives. And we're going to get into that and much more with Charlie Kirk coming up on Bolling in just a couple minutes. Well, there it is, live shots. I love this. I absolutely love this. Longboat Key, Florida. Now, I'm not even, MD, where is Longboat Key? Is that on the West Coast? It sounds like it's somewhere, you would think it would be in the Keys. I mean, it looks beautiful, but where is it? I
think it's down south.
Yeah, down south.
Near Naples.
All right. So, again, this is live, and part of the mandate that the reason I'm doing the show the way we're doing the show is because I want you folks to know this is not a typical cable news show. I'm not wearing a tie. I'm not worried about someone in my ear telling me what to say or what not to say. I got the folks, the Ben and MD and Colin and Parker and the rest of them in the control room giving me timing and giving me things to throw to. But generally it's not, don't say this or say this, which you get a lot of times in some cable shows. So we're going to sit here and wait for Charlie for a couple of minutes. You can take that studio, the control room cam one more time in there so they can see what's going on. So what's happening, also what I'll tell you what's going on as well. So Trump just signed an executive order. Now the way it works in D.C., and it's been this way for everyone, it's not unique to Trump. He signs an executive order and it's on tape. So the pool is there, the reporters are there. He signs the order for whatever it is. Reporters can ask questions if Trump wants to give them questions. And if you remember, Caitlin Clark was at one of these executive order signings, and she kept trying to interrupt Trump during. So what happens is you wait for the executive order to get signed. There's some back and forth with questions, and then you wait on the tape until Trump leaves. Trump leaves, goes back to the White House, and we get the tape and we drop it in. So we will bring you that as soon as it happens, and we're going to bring you Charlie in the meantime. Now, it's a new world. It's a new type of show and a new type of media. So we're just going to have a little bit of fun with it. In the meantime, let me just play this again one more time for you. Let's go do both of these. Let's do Crenshaw telling a reporter that he would effing kill Tucker if he saw him. Listen.
Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot.
All right, so this is what I wanted to talk to Charlie Kirk about, and there he is. Charlie Kirk pops up just like that, folks. It's magic of television. Charlie, really, really good to have you. Day two, and
Thank you, Eric.
I was just telling the folks about that crazy video, the hot mic catching Dan Crenshaw threatening Tucker. And Charlie, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the actual threat, but then also, you know, I said earlier in the show, like how easily it was for Crenshaw to lie. He said, no, I didn't do that. And they have it on tape. And then the reporter said, not only did he say it on tape, he doubled down with it when they were off camera as well. But we got a guy who's willing to lie to the American people like it's rolling off his tongue. Charlie.
Yeah, well, and first of all, Eric, congratulations. Real America's Voice is the premier channel for all people, so make this your go-to destination all day. And I know we have a lot of friends watching right now, so congrats, Eric. I'm super thrilled for you, and Parker and Rob have been working really hard. So any way we can help you at Turning Point USA, or I can help you, we are an ally here. So really happy for you, Eric, and happy
Can I
for
just
Rab
jump
and
in there
everybody
real
at home.
quick? Let me on the backside of that. I am thrilled to be here. I mean, we go from Charlie Kirk, who has just tapped into the pulse, not only of the younger generation, the voters, the conservative voice, MAGA voice. You really have a great reach. And this is not just blowing smoke up everyone's dress. But think about this, folks. You have Charlie Kirk, who has the pulse of the American people. And then Jack is here as well, has the same type of feel. I come on and I'm like really holding the media accountable. That's my forte. I've done media for so many years. I've been all over the place in the media, and that's my thing. And then we go to Bannon, who I don't know. I learned so much from Bannon, just his policy analysis. He sees things. He sees dead people in policy, and it's phenomenal. And then John Solomon, who breaks more news than anyone I've ever seen in my life. It's just a wonderful lineup. Anyway, I digress, but.
No, it's an all-star lineup. And then don't forget, you got Bannon in the morning, and then you also got Grant. And, I mean, it is an all-star team here at Real America's Voice. So really thrilled, Eric, that you're able to keep the momentum going throughout the day. So really great stuff.
Cool.
On the Crenshaw-Tucker video, I had to watch it 10 or 12 times just to, like, did he really say that? And I believe in the clip he says, "I'm not kidding." I think there was a disclaimer where he's like, "I'm not joking, I'm not kidding." Look, I don't want to minimize Crenshaw's service to the country, but he's lying here.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to talk like a big, tough guy. I mean, he obviously has served in the front lines, and we thank him for that. But now he's like, oh, you know, if I see Tucker, I'll kill him. That's really disturbing chatter from a member of Congress. And I think there should be some consideration to strip Dan Crenshaw off of his committees because of this.
Yeah.
You should not have a member of Congress talk about the most popular talk show host saying, I'm going to murder him because you have policy disagreements.
Yeah. How about not talk about a human being that way, especially not an American citizen that way, not to mention one of the most outspoken conservative voices in America. I mean, it's so many levels. And my problem is, again, the reporter was asked later, and the reporter said, oh, yeah, he not only said it on that hot mic, he said it again to me personally. So, I mean, and then to say I never said it, it was going to scorch earth and just walk away from pretend he didn't say it. And we're all supposed to say no. And really, this is what I do. Honestly, Charlie, if you're a Republican and you're going to do stuff like that, I'm going to call you out on it. You have to. You have to. Otherwise, people won't trust us,
100%.
you know? And so, yeah, so that was one. And then the other one, you know, Joy Reid gets bounced out of MSNBC, one of the most race-playing, race-baiting personalities on television. And Megyn says, you know what? No good. I'm glad you're gone. And then Don Lemon says this about Megyn.
So let me just say to Megyn Kelly, in my 30-some years as a journalist and my 50-some years as a person of color, go yourself. Okay? I usually don't like to talk about her because she's one of those people, she thrives on it. She has built the second part of whatever of her career.
Charlie, you see that dramatic sipping of his coffee? Almost said his coffee, just to throw dramatic effect into the middle of it. But I pick Megyn. I think she wipes the floor with him.
Yeah, I mean, Don Lemon does not have much of a career, nor does Joy Reid anymore. Megyn Kelly does. Megyn Kelly is a great patriot. She has a bigger following than she did in the previous couple networks that she worked at. And it's just so interesting when it comes down to no one really graduates post first or second grade. It's just kind of name calling with a little bit more vulgar words. You know, Dan Crenshaw, Don Lemon, Joy Reid. Like, there's no really philosophical depth to this, or it's just like, screw you and you're terrible and I hate you. Okay, great. But Don Lemon and Joy Reid are increasingly irrelevant. People don't talk about them. They don't watch them, and they know it. Once the test is this, and it's a very important test for Don Lemon and Joy Reid. Once they are no longer on CNN or MSNBC, are they able to be popular or relevant? For them, the answer is no.
Yeah, and I was speculating that it would almost be torture, like a prison sentence. I have to listen to Don Lemon, Joy Reid, and what's the other one? The Jim Acosta. Imagine the three of those doing a podcast. Just don't do it. I don't want to hear that. That'd be god awful. This Doge idea. I'm kind of laughing that couple of young bucks within Doge are the ones who are exposing a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse that's going on. And the left is fighting so hard for that reason. Elon Musk isn't an elected official. So what? I mean, he's elected by Donald Trump to go get the job done, and we've elected Donald Trump to do it. But younger people are literally going line by line in code, finding stuff, and somehow the left thinks that's a bad idea. How do they win this? How do they even fight that position?
We are barreling towards a referendum of whether or not we're going to have a permanent multi-million person federal bureaucracy, or if we, the people, are able to have an ultimate check and balance on it. That's really the question in front of us heading into this midterm cycle. I know it's still a ways out, and kind of what's in front of us. Are we allowed to fire federal workers? Who do they work for? Where does the money come from? You see what Elon Musk has done via Doge. He's uncovered one of the greatest fraudulent scams in front of us, has gone down to the fiber, to the details, to the fundamental core of the issue. And we see massive amounts of waste, misappropriation of funds. And this is something I think that we're going to win, because what side would you rather be on? The side of the American people or of government workers that can't even answer an email asking them the 5 things that they got done last week?
You know, guys, Control Room, again, this is Charlie. We're wide open on the show. I literally talk to Control. They'll put up the Control camera. MD will be on the mic. Control, can we get that Caroline Leavitt soundbite from the top of the show where this is amazing. I love this soundbite where she basically tells the world there's a new sheriff in town. All the rules of the White House Correspondents Association, we're blowing them the hell up. Take a listen if you got it. MD, if you got it, roll it.
As you all know, for decades, a group of DC-based journalists, the White House Correspondents Association, has long dictated which journalists get to ask questions of the President of the United States in these most intimate spaces. Not anymore.
Not anymore. And I will point out, I believe, Charlie, didn't the AP just come and say that it is now called the Gulf of America? I love this stuff.
Oh, they bent the knee. That's right. That's right. They lost the lawsuit. They bent the knee. This is an America is Back administration, and media has profoundly changed. No one really reads these antiquated newspapers anymore. It is over the top. It is podcasting. It is shows like this. It is Real America's Voice. It is over the top information flow. And so it's a very exciting moment that the White House appreciates it and understands that. And we are on the cutting edge of an information revolution.
All right, Charlie Kirk, appreciate your time, my man, and really, really excited to be sharing a network with you, my friend.
Congratulations again, Eric. Talk to you soon.
I will talk to you again. Thanks. All right, folks, we will be right back. All right, it's reckoning time in Washington. You know how every 80s movie, good or bad, the bad guy always reveals himself early on, and you know he's going to get his by the end of the whole show or the movie. That was the formula. Bad guys always get what's coming to them in the end. Well, it's high time the deep state darlings, Adam and Eric, see what's coming to them. Adam, Shifty Schiff, that jester of lies, and Eric Swalwell, who never met a Chinese spy he didn't like or sleep with. It's reckoning time for both of those clowns, and they know it. You can practically smell the squirming and the unease when you see this post from Adam Schiff after President Trump appointed Dan Bongino to be deputy FBI head, selecting another right-wing Fox personality and internet troll Dan Bongino as deputy FBI director means two things. Trump installs another loyalist who won't say no to any immoral or unethical act, and our law enforcement agencies and the public safety are further downgraded. Okay, our law enforcements were only downgraded or degraded to begin with, Shifty Schiff, because the likes of yourself and that American embarrassment, Liz Cheney, decided to tell lies to the American people. Adam Schiff was already in full panic mode once Kash Patel was finally confirmed.
Look, when Donald Trump is gone, there's a Democratic president. I can't imagine they're going to want to keep on someone as destructive as Kash Patel. But I could imagine, frankly, that we would be in this place to begin with. So we're in uncharted waters. We've had a debate about what level of constitutional crisis we're in. And frankly, I think we're already
All right,
there.
folks, we now have the video from the executive order that Trump just signed. Let's take a look at this just moments ago.
That's it?
Okay, thank you very much. We're having some very good news today. A lot of companies are coming into our country, and they're signing deals that are going to pay a lot of money and create a lot of jobs. And they're coming in largely because they think they feel good about our country, and maybe the tariffs to a certain extent, but they feel very good about the country right now, and so do I. And great things are happening. We're going to be signing some executive orders and some other things, and we'll maybe go down the list, and we'll review it, please.
Yes, sir. First, we have an executive order for your attention. In 2019, during your previous administration, you imposed price transparency requirements on the healthcare industry. This was a significant driver in lowering the costs of healthcare during your first administration. Those requirements were largely reversed by the Biden administration. Now we're reinstating them.
Terminated.
We're strengthening them. The idea is to make price transparency a key aspect of healthcare policy in America.
It's one of the biggest things that can happen to reducing cost in healthcare. It takes a little while to kick in, but Biden ended it immediately upon coming in, which was a terrible travesty in my opinion, and we're going to start it up, and we've actually made it even stronger by a couple of major factors, right? Anybody have any question on price transparency? It allows people to go out and negotiate and price, and you're not allowed to even talk about it when you go into a hospital or see a doctor, and this allows you to go out and talk about it. And it's actually one of the biggest. There's a couple of people that actually going back a long way that feel that are real pros in the industry feel this is the biggest thing you can do for cutting prices, and it certainly is one of them. And it's been unpopular in some circles because people make less money, but it's great for the patient. It's great for the people in our country. Okay, it's not so good for pharmaceuticals. It's not so good for the companies that make the drugs. And I guess you could say it probably isn't so great for hospitals, but they say that if you have a great hospital that's really knows what they're doing, it's actually great for a hospital because everybody wants to go there. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Got it, Doug? Thank you, sir. Pulitzer Prize. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have for your attention, another executive order Copper is a critical material, and the supply of copper is vital to our national security. In recent years, we've dealt with a significant issue of the dumping of foreign copper into the American market. That significantly impacted the domestic production and manufacture of copper and copper materials. This executive order charges your Secretary of Commerce with starting the process to potentially impose tariffs or other trade barriers to prevent this ongoing dumping of copper and to protect the American manufacture and production of copper.
It will have a big impact. Howard, you want to say something?
Yeah.
About that?
You mind if I read one of your truths?
Sure.
So this is a truth that's about to go out. Like our steel and aluminum industries, our great American copper industry has been decimated by global actors attacking our domestic production. To build back our copper industry, I've requested my Secretary of Commerce and USTR to study copper imports and end unfair trade putting Americans out of work. Tariffs will help rebuild back our American copper industry and strengthen our national defense. American industries depend on copper, and they should be made in America. No exemptions, no exceptions. America first creates American jobs and protects our national security. It's time for copper to come home. If it's all right with you, if I can talk a little bit about the digital services tax.
Yeah,
Would that be all right?
go ahead, do that.
So I read another truth. This is sort of so fun to read his words. Can't be any better. So our incredible United States economy and undeniable American spirit has enabled the creation of the greatest technology companies on earth. Our digital economy is bigger than most of the world's countries, and the market cap of even one of our companies exceeds every European country. Instead of empowering their workers and creating opportunities, foreign governments have instead tried to tax, fine, and hinder Americans' technology companies. Both friend and foe have been treating American tech companies harshly as if our companies are their piggy bank. This will now end. It is my objective to level the playing field and end these attacks. We are putting these countries on notice to end their unfair treatment of American companies, large and small. Our companies are the greatest investors in the world. So our tech companies are the greatest investors in the world, and their investments will go only to where American companies are treated fairly. Our ingenuity, grit, drive, and perseverance have built America. If these countries want to participate in the AI industrial revolution, it's time to choose sides with America, not against us. And we signed that on Friday, sir.
Okay, very big deal, right?
Huge.
All right, and that's a very big one that Howard just read, but they're both big. They're all big. We're only doing big ones. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, is that the culmination of ongoing conversations that you've had with your counterparts, this particular executive order?
Which one, last or?
The one at the
No, the digital tax is taking place all over Europe. They're taxing us, and they're doing other things. They're suing all our companies. And if that's going to happen, we want to be the ones that sue, not them. And they use it almost as a form of running European countries, and the EU in particular has been very violent in its lawsuits against our companies, and frankly, very violent and very bad to our airlines. I've gotten calls from the heads of airlines saying they stop in Europe and they're getting charged all sorts of taxes that they never even heard of. They stop and they're getting fined and charged, and they do it only with American companies. They're not doing it to other countries, so we're stopping it. And we have another thing, we have another step to go, and if they don't shape up, as an example, Apple has had to pay like $17 billion in a lawsuit that nobody thought was worth anything. And I won't get into the judge or the decision or how the decision was arrived, but I'm pretty good at this stuff, and I think it's disgraceful. And Google's being sued, Facebook's being sued, and many others are being sued by their so-called government, if you call it a government, EU. And They don't treat us right. They don't treat us right as a country. So we're going to protect our companies. We have to protect our companies. So we're not going to have any companies left anymore. I also want to thank Apple, though, for announcing they're going to invest $500 billion in our country. It's the biggest investment anybody's probably made to this date. And they're going to do it very quickly, and that's because of tariffs. They don't want to pay the tariffs. And they feel very strongly about the country. Now, they wouldn't have done it without us. Without the Trump administration, they wouldn't have done it. But they feel very strongly about the direction of the country. The polls have shown that, too. The polls are coming out showing direction of the country is the best they've ever seen, actually. Best they've ever seen. So I just want to thank Tim Cook and Apple for the confidence. $500 billion. That's the biggest investment anyone has made in a short period of time.
Mr. President, have you spoken today with the House Republican holdouts who said they would not be supporting the budget resolution?
Well, I'm not involved in that. They know what I want, and the Senate knows what I want, too. And the Senate's got a bill that's very strong, having to do with the taxes, because the taxes is what's bringing all these companies in. So, and without it, by the way, you'd have to double your own taxes. Everybody would be doubled up, and you'd have the biggest tax increase ever. So the House has a bill and the Senate has a bill, and I'm looking at them both, and I'll make decisions. But I don't know where they are in the vote. I know the Senate's doing very well, and the House is doing very well, but each one of them has things that I like. So we'll see if we can come together.
Mr. President, can you clarify, hopefully once and for all, what your expectations are with this email to federal employees? What are you going to use that information for? And do you see it as voluntary, like OPM has said, or mandatory?
Yeah, well, it's somewhat voluntary, but it's also, if you don't answer, I guess you get fired.
I'm still lost on that.
What it is do people exist? We have this massive government with millions of people, and nobody knows who's working for the government, who's not. So what they're doing is they're sending out a letter to everybody, and they're saying, what were the things you did last week? I guess they asked for 5. And if people are working, it's easy. I could tell you 5 things I did last week. I could tell you 5 things I did 6 weeks ago, right? If they're there and they're working, they're able to say they did 5 things during work. And that means they're working and they're with us and they have no further obligation. If they're not, it could be there's no such person. It could be that the person's no longer working. They're no longer living at that address. They may be moved. Maybe they moved to a different country, or maybe the person doesn't exist. And we then take that person off the payroll, and we save a lot of money by doing that. But that's one of the only ways. I think it's a very smart thing. And it says, if you don't answer, essentially, there's a penalty to pay. Like, that's the end of the job.
Well, Musk has said that. The order itself doesn't say that. I think that's part of the confusion. Is he speaking for you when he says you'll be terminated?
Yeah, everybody speaks for me. I'm the one. I'll take responsibility. You know the old statement, the buck stops here, right?
Yes, sir.
Famous statement. Well, I can say the same thing. The buck stops here. No, we have to find out if people are getting paid and they're not working, and they have a problem. Let's say they have another job, and then they write in false statements. It's a big problem if they write in false statements. They may be working for somebody else but getting paid by the U.S. government, and that would mean that they're not allowed to be doing that. They're not allowed to be working for us and be working for somebody else. We're paying them a lot of money. We're paying them. So we'll see. That solves that problem. Most people aren't willing to say that, we're doing this, and this for the U.S. government, and yet they at another job, because that's a big problem for them if they do that. So, in some cases, they're not writing back. And if they don't write back, they end up eventually losing their job. We give them extensions, but that was something we thought about a long time ago. We give them extensions, but we'll see. We have to make sure, number one, that we have people, number two, that they're working, and number two, they're working for us, not for another company.
Is it true that President Zelensky's coming on Friday to meet with you, and is the mineral deal sorted out?
I hear that. I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy. And, it's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal, it could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things. And look, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine and Russia fighting a war that should have never, ever happened. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president. And it didn't happen for 4 years. People say, how do we know that it didn't happen for 4 years? It would have never happened. And nevertheless, this guy went into this situation and he spent money like nobody's ever seen, $350 billion. The other thing that we don't like is that Europe has spent $100 billion. We've spent $350 billion. Europe gets their money back because they spent it in the form of a loan, and we just gave them, whether it's 300 or 350 billion, nobody really knows. They can't even tell me the answer to that, but it means probably more than that. So what we're doing is now we're saying, look, we want to be secured. We want to get that money back. We're helping a country through a very, very big problem, a problem like very few people have had. Shouldn't have had this problem because it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen, so we have to straighten it out. But the American taxpayer now is going to get their money back plus.
Mr. President, yesterday with Emmanuel Macron, you said you had spoken to Putin about the idea of peacekeepers in Ukraine, that Putin was fine with it. The Kremlin, I guess, has said that that's actually unacceptable to them. What's real here?
That's not what I was told. But you're going to need some form of peacekeeping, so something will be done that's going to be satisfactory to everybody. We need peacekeeping too.
Any situation where there's American troops involved?
It's actually something I did discuss, but a form of peacekeeping that's acceptable to everybody. Ultimately, we'll be able to agree on something.
With Ukraine and this mineral deal, what does Ukraine get in return, Mr. President?
$350 billion and lots of equipment and military equipment and the right to fight on and originally the right to fight. Look, Ukraine, I will say they're very brave and they're good soldiers, but without the United States and its money and its military equipment, this war would have been over in a very short period of time. In fact, I was the one that gave the javelins. You remember the famous javelins? That was me. That wasn't Obama. It wasn't Biden. It wasn't anybody else. It was me. And they wiped out a lot of tanks with those javelins. And the expression was that Obama gave sheets and I gave the javelins. That was a big deal at the time. It wiped out. That was the beginning where people said, wow, that's something. Well, that was American equipment. Without American equipment, this war would have been over very quickly. And American money, too. I mean, a lot of money.
So will you provide me that war-fighting equipment and the ammunition, that's sustained going forward for Ukraine, and how long is it sustained?
Well, it could go forward for a while, and maybe until we have a deal with Russia. Look, we need to have a deal with Russia, otherwise it's going to continue. But now when Americans put up their money, the taxpayer money, and the president approves it, we're getting our money back in some form. But it could go on for a while, or it could be settled quickly. I think it's going to be settled quickly. I spoke with President Putin. I think he wants to